Welcome to this pre-vote-a-rama episode of Leader Time for May 21st, 2026. Both Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer focused their speeches on budget reconciliation, soon on the floor after months of failed negotiations and a partial shutdown faced immigration enforcement agencies. Up to 20 hours of debate and hours of votes on amendments were expected. The following material is protected by copyright.
Mr. President, the Democrat Party has gone off the rails. It's no secret that the Democrat Party has drifted sharply leftward in recent years and has become increasingly divorced from the concerns of ordinary Americans. Many Americans say the Democrat Party does not share their priorities. That was a headline noted last year from the New York Times. But it is remarkable just how extreme Democrats have become. Everyone remembers the Democrat Party's flirtation with defund the police a few years ago. But when it rapidly became apparent that we actually need the police, Democrats seemed to rein things in. But no more. In today's Democrat Party, defund the police is back, and more strongly than ever. The reason we're here today, Mr. President, I would say the sole reason we are here today, because we're considering this reconciliation bill, is because Democrats refuse to fund law enforcement at the Department of Homeland Security. They refuse to fund Border Patrol. And they refuse to fund Immigration and Customs Enforcement at all. They wouldn't agree to provide a single dollar for either of these agencies. Not a single dollar for a physical presence at our border, not a single dollar to take criminal illegal aliens off of our streets. Really think about that for a minute, Mr. President. Is there any country in the world that doesn't have officers to protect its borders? Well, if Democrats had their way, that would now be the United States of America. The public record provides ample evidence of the fact that among those who try to make their way illegally across the border, there are bad actors whose presence in this country would endanger Americans. Democrats don't want there to be a single individual at the border to stop those individuals from entering our country. And they don't want there to be a single individual to enforce immigration law in this country. The various women who were murdered by illegal immigrants who entered the country under the open borders Biden administration, what about those? Well, Democrats apparently don't think that even one of those individuals should have been deported. Mr. President, if what I'm saying sounds extreme, let me confirm it is. But is also an accurate description of the Democrats' position. If this were about making reforms to the way ICE or Border Patrol does business, then Democrats would have accepted the robust package of legislative reforms they were offered by the White House, or engaged in serious negotiations to tweak the package. But they didn't. They put up a good show for a little while. But it rapidly became clear that Democrats were not interested in actually reaching any kind of agreement. And eventually they just walked away, presumably because they felt that it was more valuable for them to have a political issue than to actually agree to any reforms. Of course, I'm not sure what political constituency they were appealing to, because I don't think mainstream Americans believe in, for example, completely defunding our nation's Border Patrol. But then again, I'm not too sure the Democrat Party really understands or thinks about mainstream Americans. They're in the pockets of the far left, and so they embrace positions guaranteed to appeal to the far left, no matter how out of step those positions are with those of mainstream Americans. Mr. President, in recent days, perhaps realizing just how extreme defund the police could seem to mainstream Americans, the Democrat leader has attempted to obfuscate what is happening here by suggesting that Republicans' consideration of this bill somehow means that Republicans are not concerned with the challenges facing ordinary Americans. To which I say, give me a break. This from the same Democrat leader who oversaw passage of legislation that plunged our country into an inflation crisis. From legislation to drive down the cost of prescription drugs at the pharmacy counter to our signature working families tax cuts, which permanently cut American taxes and put more money in workers' pockets, Republicans have been focused like a laser on making life easier for hardworking Americans. But remarkably, it is possible to walk and chew gum at the same time. And we can protect Americans by protecting our borders and continue to pass legislation that will alleviate some of the pressures facing hardworking Americans. We not only can do both, we have a responsibility to do both. And Republicans are going to fulfill that responsibility. As long as we're in charge, there will be agents at our borders to prevent terrorists, traffickers, and other dangerous individuals from making their way into our country. And there will be agents to take criminal, illegal immigrants off of America's streets. Our nation's security demands nothing less.
Well, Mr. President, Republicans still haven't released the text of their radical MAGA reconciliation wish list, just hours before we're expected to vote on it. Where the hell is the bill? Where the hell is the bill? We were supposed to get it yesterday before lunch. No bill. We were supposed to get it yesterday afternoon. No bill. We were supposed to get it before dinner time. No bill. We were supposed to get it around midnight. Still no bill. And now it's Thursday morning. Still no bill. Why don't we have a bill? I'll tell you why. The Republican Party is in complete disarray. They're in complete meltdown. They can't come to an agreement with each other. They're angry with each other. Why? They're pulled between two poles, and they can't decide which to go to. The first pole is the pole they should go to. Help the American people. Help the American people with higher costs, whether it's groceries or gasoline or housing or health care. Work with Democrats to help get those costs down. That's where they should be. And they should also be with us when we want to end the chaos on the streets of our cities by having ICE and Border Patrol have reasonable guardrails so they don't kill Americans on the streets. And, of course, end the corruption. They should be angry as we are, as the American people are, at the corruption that's coming out of the White House. So on the one pole is to work for the American people, but on the other pole is Donald Trump, who is exactly the opposite of what Americans want, and Republicans know it. Trump doesn't give a damn about costs. He's already said that. Pay more for gasoline? He says, I don't care. The American people can pay more for groceries, can pay more for housing. He doesn't care about that. He's a billionaire. He doesn't go shop for groceries. He doesn't go fill up the pump, fill up gas, get gas at the pump. Chaos. He loves chaos. His Iran war is one of the most chaotic foreign misadventures America's ever gone on. And it gets worse all the time as gas prices go above $4.50. I heard today it's above $4 in every state. And he is the originator, the chief cook and bottle washer of corruption. He comes up with corrupt scheme after corrupt scheme to benefit himself, his family, his cronies, criminals who he's encouraged to act criminally. He's the originator of the corruption. The ballroom. They've become ballroom Republicans, the senators, Republican senators. The MAGA slush fund to be given out to cronies, probably a lot of it would end up in Trump's pocket or his kids' pocket. Your taxpayers, your dollars, American taxpayers. So they're stuck. They're sort of like, that cartoon, the old Popeye cartoon where olive oil is pulled in one direction by Popeye and the other by Bluto, and she keeps going back and forth. That's who they are. They don't know what to do. And so there's no bill. That's why there's no bill. They're stuck. They're flummoxed. The Leader Thune, has two choices. Side with Donald Trump and show the American people you're totally, totally out of touch with what they need. Or side with the American people, work with us, and get Donald Trump furious at you. And you see what happens when Donald Trump is furious at Republicans. We could ask a couple of senators what happens when they don't side with Donald Trump. So they're stuck. They're just stuck. And it's a spectacle that the American people are witnessing, and more Americans every day say the Republican Party, many former Republicans, say the Republican Party I used to know is so different, so deranged by Donald Trump that it can't be with them anymore. And that's why we Democrats look like we're in good shape in the House and the Senate as we move forward to November. Republicans, let's go over what they want in their bill. Republicans want to spend tens of billions of American tax dollars, but we still don't know what exactly we're voting on in mere hours. We do know that this bill won't include a single penny to make life more affordable. The costs issue, which is number one in the eyes of the American people. The American people don't need to see the bill text to know where Senate Republicans stand with Donald Trump right now not working families. I'm pleased a small number of Republicans are starting to wake up to how egregious Trump's billion-dollar taxpayer-funded ballroom is. But this MAGA majority has made it abundantly clear they're willing and eager to fund Trump's vanity project at the taxpayers' expense. Make no mistake, if ballroom funding doesn't make it into the Republican bill, it's not because of a Republican conscience. It's because Democrats stopped them. They tried to sneak it in. They were caught red-handed. Oh, it's only for security. It's only for this. It's only for that. They're stuck. No one wants the ballroom except Donald Trump. And they're quaking in their boots to oppose him. And when they oppose him, they're worried about electoral consequences, as we've seen in the last week. Were it not for Democrats fighting this ballroom every step of the way, Republicans would have wasted $1 billion taxpayer dollars for Trump's palace in a heartbeat. Republicans are foolish if they think that they can distance themselves from this boondoggle, because no matter what's in the bill, Democrats will force Republicans to vote again and again on their outrageous priorities: Trump's ballroom, Trump's insurrectionist slush fund, Trump's costly war. Americans don't want this bill even without Trump's vanity project. Not when it provides $70 billion to Trump's masked agents who sow chaos in the streets. It's absurd. It's absurd to ask Americans who are struggling to make ends meet to shell out another $70 billion to ICE and Border Patrol when these rogue agencies are sitting on $100 billion from the big, beautiful bill. But the costs of this war, which the American people are opposed to, and the cost of many other things might have to be funded out of this in the next few months. And so they don't want to take the money for ICE or for Border Patrol when there is $100 billion sitting there. Instead, they hold up the budget. Instead, they tell Democrats there's no reform. They tell that to the American people as well. As Americans burn through their savings, Republicans want to expand their nest egg for Trump's private militia. Every vote and every amendment we bring to the floor today will show that Democrats are standing up for the American people and Republicans are selling out to Trump. Again, the contrast is glaring. Who's on the side of the American people for lower costs and for less chaos and to end the corruption? And who's on the side of Donald Trump? Master of corruption, originator of corruption in certain new, novel, and disgusting ways, as well as somebody who doesn't give a damn about the costs that the American people are suffering through. On the slush fund, Donald Trump's nearly $2 billion MAGA slush fund, it's the most blatant act of corruption in American history. People are aghast. Jaws drop all over the nation when they hear what Trump wants to do. sue the government for $10 billion, that's him personally suing, then settle with himself and use that money for his cronies and Lord knows what else. As I said, I believe a lot of it will end up in the pockets of Trump, his family, his cronies. Trump sues Trump. Trump settles with Trump. Trump decides which Trump allies get paid. It's absolutely depraved. It turns out that the art of the deal isn't very hard when you're making a deal with yourself and forcing Americans to foot the bill. Let's see what his book says about that one, his next book. Trump acted as the plaintiff, defendant, and judge all at once to set up this slush fund. And while Trump was at it, he shielded his family from ever having to face a tax audit again. Can you believe this, America? In this bill, Trump can never be prosecuted and investigated for tax fraud, even though I and so many others wouldn't trust him with his tax returns for a minute. Trump doesn't have to pay his taxes, but he's more than happy to put your tax dollars in the pockets of his cronies, criminals, cop-killing January 6th insurrectionists. They're going to have to vote on that, Republicans. You're going to prevent any of this money from going to people who hurt cops, who were prosecuted for hurting cops. Trump's own Attorney General, Pam Bondi, instituted a rule last year explicitly prohibiting these types of corrupt payments, and Democrats will not let Trump get away with this grift of epic proportion. That's why the very first amendment I will offer during vote-a-rama will be to block this slush fund, all of it. Republicans will have to answer on my amendment. Are they for the slush fund or are they against it? Do Republicans want to lower Americans' costs or sell them out to give payments to violent criminals? Do Republicans stand with the American people or with Donald Trump? Americans want to know. Democrats will force Republicans to answer. On costs, now ahead of the Memorial Day weekend, Americans drive to the grocery store and can't believe the prices they're seeing for beef, for propane, for the gas to get there. It's hard to enjoy a barbecue when rising costs are stretching your budget to the breaking point. Just look at costs of the menu compared to last year. A pound of beef up nearly 20%. Hot dogs, 12%. Rack of ribs, 8%. Buns up 20%. Ketchup up 14%. Watermelon, 17%. Lettuce, 19%. Tomatoes up 22%. And the price of gasoline, it's up 42% compared to this time last year, thanks to Trump's disastrous war with Iran. At a time when Americans should be gathering together in celebration, they're getting crushed by surging costs. And Republicans don't include a single penny in their reconciliation bill to bring down prices. Outrageous, clueless, and it will come back to bite Republicans. While Republicans have been working around the clock to line Trump's pockets, Democrats are fighting every second of the day to lower Americans' costs. And since millions of Americans won't be able to grill this weekend, Democrats are going to grill Republicans over and over again during the vote-a-rama with amendments to lower Americans' costs.
Follow the Senate floor live on our YouTube channel, FedNet TV. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without express written permission from FedNet is prohibited. Thanks for listening.